this video, we are going to cover our experience at South by Southwest 2022. This year, luckily, we were able to attend the event together, and we're going to watch some of the footage we filmed over there. We're going to add some of our comments. We're going to also give our verdict on how the event went. My name is Elisha. I'm the Innovation Technical Director at Fresh Labs, Fresh Consulting. And we also have Johnny here, who is a Strategic Innovation Director at Fresh Consulting as well. So Johnny, this was my first time attending the event, and I didn't know too much about it besides just the fame of the name that I kept hearing in the past years. Could you give me some of the context on how the event was held this year?
The South by Southwest is an event. It's a tech event. It's one of the bigger ones that happens in the United States. This year, it was held during March. I think it's typically when it's held. It coincides with the spring break for UT. It's always been held in Austin since, I think, 1987, pretty much our lifetime. And I actually claim Austin as home. And with our new office here in Austin, Texas, I was really looking forward to this. It was definitely a highlight for the month of March, especially after all these years of COVID, right? And we don't know when that's fully going to end. Yeah. I don't know if you agree, but COVID did impact this particular event. Yes. But we did get some good takeaways and good interviews and had a kind of enjoyable experience.
True. And we were very excited to see some of the latest and greatest coming from, VR, AR, Metaverse, like topics we've been covering. I think those were our main rest and focus when we went to the event. And You'll see the movie that we're gonna play that covers a lot of those subjects.
We'll up on the screen here for us to look at.
We're at South by Southwest here in Austin, Texas, and we're super excited to share some awesome products and experiences and things that we're going to be seeing here. Anything specific you're excited about, Elisha?
Yeah, I'm really excited to look for some VR, AR experience where I can actually physically try them on. And I think that's the point of coming to the conference.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of get the personal experience as opposed to looking at it online only.
Yeah, exactly. I remember going to CES a few years ago and trying the first version of the Magic Leap and seeing all the hype that came up to it and then actually trying it on and that having a different experience than what I had perceived prior. So it does make a difference.
Yeah.
And we're going to do our best to convey what we see as up-and-coming products that are in the XR, kind of ARVR, Metaverse space, things that we've been talking about, topics you've seen us post about here recently. If you are a developer building towards those, or if you're a business thinking about getting into these types of products or experiencing more of that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I think we came into this pretty excited about all these companies with AR headsets and VR headsets, and let's jump in. And I think I had just had that prior context of CES, and I know I shared that particular example. Did you also get that impression going into South by Southwest that we were going to get some more hardware to be able to play with and try on?
Yeah, just based on some of the vendors. I know some had to do last minute pull away, so I know it wasn't going to be same as maybe CES 2020, but we had excitement around okay, we're gonna see all these cool stuff and all the experience. The stuff we missed in CES because we couldn't go, right? So hopefully a repeat of same thing that were announced in CES that we can check out in person. So that was my understanding going into.
Well, I'll quick play here. I know this is when we started going over to the XR experiments, right? That was kind of the trigger word for us of, hey, we should go and check this out. There's a whole area dedicated to this. And was, let's see if there's some hardware and probably a combination of cool, hardware mixed with some experiences.
So we are standing at this Goliath booth, is that correct?
That is correct. Goliath Playing with Reality. It's a 25-minute animated documentary about gaming, psychosis, and connection.
Okay, could you tell us a little bit about this whole visual setup that looks really interesting? Do they actually play into the game, or are they
using game aesthetics? So we've got stories about a gamer who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and when he came out of isolation, he found connection through online gaming, and so that was kind of his savior. So it's a bit of a love letter to gaming, and so we wanted to get the game world elements to kind of pop out from the VR piece onto the ground around you.
In this game, what are they exactly watching?
Going through his story, so it's a documentary piece. It's a Goliath story, you hear his voiceover, and you're kind of going through a bit of his journey. There are some elements in there where it is like gameplay, so you're kind of going through his experience of being in isolation to connecting through gaming, and get to sort of do a bit of gameplay in there as well. So it's very much about how you put the audience sort of at the heart of the experience and use technology in a way that kind of makes sense for what we're doing.
Is the game available to download for the Oculus Quest 2?
It is available. It's on Oculus Quest 2. It's free.
Okay, it's free.
Bargain, free. We launched it in September on the store, and it is only available on Quest.
So if people want to find out more about what you guys do,
Yeah.
besides Goliath project, where do
Goliath, we are called Anagram.
Anagram?
So our website is weareanagram.co.uk.
We're Anagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
With that, I was going to ask you, Elisha, was this an experience that you were able to jump in and look at, or did you see how others might have interacted with it? Did you see that they came out with kind of like a positive experience or any kind of takeaway?
For this one, it was just looking at it from outside perspective. I see people wearing headsets walking around in this stage. I thought they did pretty good job trying to make their booth or the section of their booth more visually stimulating and possibly emulating what may be going inside the Oculus Quest VR headset, because oftentimes we have no visibility into what's going on within the headset. And I've seen some vendors displaying the content in a screen so we can watch what might be happening.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of booths create a stage, kind of like you go to gaming convention and they put real life statue of the game character and things like that to kind of create a vibe. I was just looking at it from outside and seeing like what's going on, walking around in this interesting dark illuminated space, and that really intrigued my mind.
That's interesting that you bring that up. In general, with virtual reality today in 2022, it's still quite clunky to be able to share the experiences that you are having in these standalone headsets, right? The Quest 2 is probably one of the more advanced standalone headsets. There's a lot of tethered headsets that are pretty immersive, and if you have a PC, you might be able to put it on the screen. But for the most accessible, most adopted VR headset, the Quest 2, it's still quite clunky to be able to share those experiences. And we saw that, right? Like you said at South by, where they had to leverage the visual experience and like the lighting and turning things off, but you couldn't quite see what they were seeing. That actually turns into a little bit of friction for those that might be interested, I've noticed, right? If I'm at home and I have guests over, saying, hey, let's pull out the Quest 2 isn't quite the activity that I choose, mainly because I can't really depend on Chromecast to work every time and to be seamless. And there's certain games that have restrictions on it that will say, oh, you can't do Beat Saber, you can't do this or that to show up on the screen because of copyright issues. And so then you end up in there with a VR headset by yourself. At least in this particular XR kind of environment, I noticed that we didn't actually see anything on any screen on a massive TV or projected that showed what users were looking at in real time. It was all very much a stand in line, put on the headset to take on the experience.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that made the experience maybe a little bit disjointed, where I know I have to put the headset to experience it, but also there's the barrier of what am I getting into it? Am I gonna enjoy this session? I noticed some of the VR experience, some of them mentioned like it's like 10 to 20 minute experience. Maybe you don't have that patience, or maybe you don't know if you wanna put that much time, especially during conference, you might wanna be looking around different things. So it's a lot to ask for the visitors to trust that this is going to be worthwhile experience, and it's going to take 10 to 20 minutes, and we don't judge you if you take off the headset before 10 to 20 minutes of experience if you're bored with it or something.
Specifically on the Goliath experience that they showed, we interjected some actual footage on our video so we can give kind of you a sense of what people were looking at, and it's very kind of experimental. I think that one theme that we saw that might be worth highlighting is a lot of these award-winning experiences, not to take away from them, but they were very much just kind of experimental. The use of taking away from the physics that we're normally used to, where you might float a little bit more, your arms might be a little longer, colors might be brighter, right? Really playing with the space, that 3D kind of spatial environment that you're in, just like this Goliath experience. And it was like, hey, let's put a theme behind it, seeing the day in the life of schizophrenia. So what was amazing about it is they were able to show what that might actually look like. And that's hard to convey, right, to a normal human. Oh, with schizophrenia, it might be like this. And so by using something like VR that's immersive, you can bring that to the forefront in a way that actually can be educational, but also pretty immersive, right? And uniquely immersive with all the colors and the physics that I was talking about and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that probably plays with the theme of South by Southwest, because there is also the art and film, and it's not pure tech, it's also about telling the story, having people experience something, and less about here's how you do some advanced mapping with the VR headset. Maybe less technical of that, but it's more about here you watch a film and you get some experience and understand different stories, and it's more human-like. CES is more about, let me showcase my patent technology.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning, yeah, like you said, South by has different kind of themes tied to them. So there's the music experience, there's an interactive experience, there's a film experience, educational experience, and then lastly, there's just kind of the exhibits and parties that happen. And what they do is they actually track how many people signed up, what was the attendance, and the breakdown, just so everyone gets a sense for that, is it's actually pretty even across the music and interactive. We kind of joined the interactive mainly, but there were like live concerts and things like that from artists in the area, from throughout the country and around the world. But 28,000 on the music side, 30,000 on the interactive side, 16 on the film, 4 on education, and then a massive 152,000 that just joined the exhibition and the parties that happened.
Got it.
Of course, just a little bit of a breakdown there.
So there's going to be 3 parts to this. The first is going to be instructions. The second is going to be a mini game where you play by moving your hands in the motion like this. The faster you move, the faster you can shoot the balls out of your hand. You aim by looking at where you want the balls to go. And number 3, you're going to enter the Hottieverse. You're going to see one of the 4 songs in the VR concert.
Okay, so Johnny, you just experienced this VR program, the Hottieverse,
The Hottieverse.
and you gotta explain to us
Yeah.
what was so hot about the Hottieverse.
No, it's actually pretty cool. So this is for Megan Thee Stallion. It's called Enter the Hottieverse, and it was a VR concert. So I'm definitely interested in asking more about why it's called the Hottieverse and what's coming with that. What proprietary is happening from AmazeVR, who's the company that built the experience. All right, great. I'm here with Jamie. Jamie, tell me what you do at AmazeVR.
Yeah, I'm the VP of Business Development at AmazeVR.
Great. And what can you tell me about AmazeVR?
We're a VR company. We've been around for 5-6 years at this point. Started life as a VR content company doing live action VR storytelling, and in the last couple of years evolved to focus purely on music. So we're creating VR concerts, and we're here at South by Southwest demoing our first project with Megan Thee Stallion. The focus is really on the fan and artist interaction, so everything is designed to be focused directly in front of you. We filmed Megan's performance in a studio against a green screen, and we had her dancers in all green bodysuits so that she had the comfort of actually performing with her dancers. And then we did a separate motion capture shoot with her dancers and used that to create the avatars of her.
Interesting. So it was a motion captured with real kind of dancers. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I think one of the reasons I was kind of confused here was just what I was seeing was that Megan Thee Stallion was in the front, and you can tell that she was recorded with video. And it's this fully 3-dimensional capture of her that probably was done in a VR room or something like that. And then there's these avatars that are in the background, and they're dancing, but they're dancing like normal, but they just look stylistically different. His clarification of we put motion tracking suits on and we captured the dancers, and then we were able to place them in post-production, right, to do some stuff like that. It did maybe mixed reality in that there was some actual real humans mixed with virtual kind of characters that were interacting with each other and showcasing things.
Yeah, and there were some gaming component, right, at the beginning. I think like you're like doing the drumming thing, and I was like, what is he tapping on?
Yeah, exactly. They kind of broke it out, and I think he explains this later in the interview, but yeah, they broke it down into 3 parts, kind of an introductory part, then there was like the actual gaming part, and then there was a single song from Megan Thee Stallion. He does talk about it in their interview and talks about the purposes behind them and why that's actually something they built into the experience. But I think I was anticipating just jumping right into the concert, like, hey, I'm sitting at a seat inside of a concert and I'm seeing Megan Thee Stallion and I'm on the front row. That's kind of what I was anticipating, but it turned out to have some interactive component, and it turned out to be kind of a experience component.
We're going to be releasing this in movie theaters to begin with. So we're doing a 10-city tour starting in April, running through to the beginning of July.
Wow.
And this was just a demo for South by, but when you're in the movie theater, the experience will have elements that you saw today. So the first part, which is on-screen instructions about calibrating the devices, just making sure that everybody's headsets are working. We're not assuming that people have used VR before, so we're trying to give them very clear instructions of how to use it.
Let me pause you there.
Sure.
I love that you did that. I know one of the biggest concerns we've seen, I don't know if you know over the holidays, but one of the things we saw over and over on LinkedIn and Twitter and just like social media was that people didn't get a lot of the instructions.
Exactly,
So
and
it
gives a transition from the real world into the virtual world as well.
During the holidays, obviously they sold quite a lot, but the number of videos and tweets and posts about this gap of educating somebody that's never used it to how to use it, and the number of people that hurt themselves or broke their devices was so astronomical.
We are releasing this in movie theaters, and you know, we don't assume that people have done VR before. We don't assume that they have headsets. We want this to be something that's for the artist fans. So we're trying to make it as easy and user-friendly as possible.
Great.
And the second part you saw, which is the game, that's in the movie theaters, that's going to be our pre-show experience. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that it gives us an opportunity to make sure that all of the headsets are functioning. We're going to have 100 headsets in theater at once that we'll be operating remotely.
Wow.
So we need to have some way of making sure that we're troubleshooting any issues, making sure that everybody is ready to go.
So there will be like technicians on site at the concert to troubleshoot?
Yeah, we'll have some of our team there running it, but it's been designed and built so that it's fairly user-friendly. So eventually, as we do more of these, it'll be something that we can easily train people to do.
So they come into a theater, 100 people at a given time. Are they watching anything in the theater as well, or is that more of the audio experience, or what's actually happening physically apart from what they're seeing in the VR headset?
So as they walk into the theater, before they sit down and get given a headset, there will be some content on the big screen in the movie theater, which will be general onboarding content, getting people excited. We're going to play some music videos, which even in itself, watching an artist's music video on a big screen,
that makes a big difference.
With the music loud, it
probably
really gets
never
the
had that.
going.
Yeah, got it.
But the other reason for having the game, though, is it gives us an opportunity to get everybody to the same starting line before the VR concert begins.
Got it.
Because the audio will be played through the speaker system in the theaters.
Oh, wow.
So we need to make sure that the visuals that they're seeing in the headset is synced with the audio.
Wow, that's a big technological feat, I think, right? 100 VR headsets synchronized to audio in a physical theater.
Yeah.
Is there something happening there that you guys are doing, or are you leveraging certain technology?
So we've built some software that really just enables us to interface with the projection system in the theater, wirelessly control the 100 headsets, and broadcast the audio through the speaker system.
And are these headsets tethered? Will they be plugged in through the USB port, connected to computers off-site or something?
No, we're using the Quest 2 wirelessly.
So the Quest 2 wirelessly untethered. Wow, that's a big deal. That's pretty great. So that's the second experience, and I noticed that y'all are leveraging the new hand tracking kind of SDK from Meta, right? And I know they're doing lots and lots of updates, but this one was really seamless.
Right.
On that experience, I was sharing earlier that it was a game where you move your hands to basically shoot and you move your head around. I wasn't sure what the connection was between that and what I saw after, but what you're saying is it's the same kind of starting point for everyone, and also it's giving people that maybe haven't had a VR experience to actually get a chance to do something immersive of that nature.
Exactly, and it's also an indication of where we're headed. As we develop, we're going to be combining that level of interactivity and engagement into the VR concert itself.
The avatars that I saw to the right of me, were those real? Are those going to be real?
In this demo, no.
Okay.
They were just mock-ups of avatars. But in the movie theater version, it will be real avatars. And the game that you play, it'll be the same game. But it'll be multi-levels, and you get high scores. And you compete against 3 other people in your row.
In your row. Okay, so got it. So it's a few people at a time, not all 100 people all at once.
No, it's in blocks of 4.
Great, yeah, that's amazing. And then we got to the third part, right, which was Megan Thee Stallion on a stage, really high quality capture video, got to experience a full kind of song there. That was pretty awesome. I noticed that you have the VR headset to kind of consume that. You mentioned that the limitation of 9K versus 6K, is that what you said?
So we shoot this in 9K.
You shoot it in 9K.
And the headsets, as great as they are, aren't quite at the stage where we can get the full resolution.
Got
it. You know, as headsets develop, we'll be really optimizing for that visual quality.
So let's say Project Cambria comes out, or whatever comes out from a standalone kind of tetherless headset device, you'll be able to kind of upgrade the experience theoretically if that were to come out halfway through the year or whatever, whenever that comes. Yeah. That's amazing. And then the kind of headphones. So I noticed that was just for this particular experience, kind of consuming it on your own, interrupting
we're doing
others.
it in a big room with lots of other experiences.
Now, did that have 3D audio, like spatial audio, where you can kind of move around? That's not spatial audio.
No, but it's something that we're thinking about, absolutely.
So where can we find? Is it AmazeVR?
AmazeVR.com.
Great.
People can buy tickets to see the tour.
Will people eventually, after the tour, be able to consume the experiences on their own headsets?
Yes. Later this year, we'll be releasing this for online VR stores.
Great. And what's the ultimate vision for AmazeVR? What are you guys going to be doing 5 years from now?
So our goal is to have every artist in the world performing an AmazeVR concert.
Got it. And you mentioned, we talk about this a lot on our kind of show, that a lot of people leverage the word something verse, Hottieverse, Metaverse, Microverse, things like that. Is there eventually going to be some consumable experience that is a verse that people can kind of interact with each other and kind of experience that?
Yeah, our goal is to build our kind of corner of the music metaverse where we'll have these VR concerts and people will be able to interact with. We're thinking about how we can have people engaging with virtual merch as you would at a real concert, digital goods, everything like that.
Amazing. Thank you for the time today.
Welcome.
That was a great
Thank you.
experience.
Yeah, interesting. You did not get to experience that one directly, Elisha, but it was very interesting to see. Like, that was probably the biggest booth right at the entrance, Hottieverse, and you see like an artist that's really popular right now. They mentioned a few other names that they weren't able to say on camera of some big artists in other kind of genres of music. So they actually are, when they say they're building this corner of the metaverse that's focused on music, when they start to partner with big artists like this, they're going to get quite a lot of traction. And the thought of being able to see them tour and go into movie theaters, which right now are pretty empty still because of COVID, I think is a very interesting take for them.
Yeah. And I wonder if they are going to also cover virtual influencer celebrities that we looked at in the past videos that we recorded, where either it's like a complete replica of the actual celebrity, or it could also be complete, just created right from scratch type of celebrity artist that might be performing concert, and instead of these type of agency coming up with their own platform, they could work with the AmazeVR, some sort of partnership to make that happen. Since AmazeVR or similar companies have figured out how to do that in theater and all these systems, that the artists might just come to them and say, hey, I want to do that concert. They can't build a whole ecosystem themselves, so they'll just come to these. So I see like a great business opportunities where you can build like ecosystem or infrastructure of hosting these events, as opposed to everyone having to figure it out the same, because it sounded very complex too.
You mentioned a good point though there about the virtual influencer part. It brought up the thought of Genies recently raised quite a lot of money. I would consider them a closed beta. They're an avatar platform that partners with celebrities and mainly musicians. And what they do is they create the digital twin, right? In this case, the stylistic styles, it's not like a volumetric video that was captured in 9K, right? It's a cartoon, right? It's like a Fortnite looking, stylistic art style version of them. And I would imagine as we see more and more of that, right? Like celebrities start to have a digital twin version in virtual environments, right? They start leveraging those for social media. They start leveraging for different types of things. I can imagine it being even easier to do concerts like this, where they just say, let's motion capture some other person, but let's put Megan Thee Stallion as an avatar that's up on stage, and we're there in this concert, like jamming out to an avatar. I don't think that's unrealistic. And I hear that in other parts of the world, that's actually pretty common. From my understanding, I've never participated in them, but there are concerts happening today in other parts of the world where that's pretty regular for some bands or some artists, that they're performing as virtual musicians.
Especially, I'd say in Japan, they have this culture of, let's not show our face, put up the, one of the virtual influencers, right? And then do the holographic concerts and stuff like that. I think there's more popular style format of like not using the real person or revealing who they are, or they're singing but not showing their face and things like that. Even in the US, there's like the DJ with the mask on with like a Mickey Mouse looking thing.
Yeah, I own their NFT.
Even in movie theater, there's the range of like realistic actors acting to something like Avatar, right? Which is all completely CG based. Audience accept different ranges, right? Like they're not obsessed with just the realistic thing or just the digital thing. People have a range of preferences that they enjoy, as long as it's a entertainment.
It does bring up the thought of what happened last, I guess it was 2020, and then some of, I think 2021, but Travis Scott, a pretty well-known artist, performing inside of Fortnite, right? Like an actual game that wasn't supposed to be like a world or a metaverse, but then performing and drawing something like 12.3 million people live, which is a lot more than the biggest event in TV, which is the Oscars or the Super Bowl. Travis Scott ends up having a massive live viewing. Eventually it was 27 million that saw the experience, that either consumed it live or after the fact. And that was like a huge deal. He made, I think, 1/3 of the revenue as a virtual character inside a single event than he did in full-fledged concerts, right? And then you have right after that Lil Nas X, who's another kind of artist performer, and his was attended by 33 million people, and that was in Roblox, the game. So you have Fortnite and Roblox, kind of these pioneers of gaming that are bringing these artists as avatars and letting people kind of consume those experiences, and it ends up being pretty impressive. And it does show what this generation right below us, Gen Z, is used to growing up in this world where they are
Right.
spending time in games like this.
Yeah.
And now we're bringing artists into their environment. When they become, the 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds of the world, right? This will become more and more normal. And this is the kind of world that's coming for the future of entertainment. I think we have just maybe one more interview here, and it's about the Doodles. Let's see if we can jump into that really quickly.
Wow, this is interesting event. You were playing with the drawing device over there. How was the experience?
It was pretty cool. It's interesting. It's like a massive screen that looks like it has a spray paint. I could tell it was 3D printed.
3D printed,
I
okay.
could shake it and I hear the little clicking that you would hear in a normal spray can, and then you kind of switch through modes and kind of draw essentially. It was pretty cool. Yeah, pretty like big experience with something that feels practical like a spray paint can.
It looked like you're using like a Wiimote, like on the Wii.
From what I overheard, they had sensors on all the corners. Then they had an HTC Vive tracker where it's set on the base of this spray paint can. And then essentially I think they're doing like infrared lights that track. So then it's able to place it on the screen.
Got it. And I think we've seen technology like that in the past, but I think the way they presented it captured audience interest. And that's kind of cool thing about the conference, where it's not just about technical specs or what's technically innovative, but it's also creative, innovative use of the technology, not just the fact that it's new, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it was branded to Doodles, right, which is this whole area. Already interesting because it's an NFT, which is digital, right, online, but then you have a physical location representing an environment with these little experiences where you can get noodles, you can get drinks, you can get nails painted, you can go draw on the wall, so there's lots of little booths there. Use of technology that's subtle, but has a big impact to the experience of the exhibit.
Yeah, I noticed they were trying to use all the senses, like the sense of sound, the taste, everything they're trying to utilize to kind of create this environment. Yeah, it's really cool, yeah.
Yeah, great experience here. We enjoyed it.
Maybe pause there for a second before we see the hand sanitizer example there. But that was probably my favorite experience of South by. Just seeing such a cool, like, artistic design and style. The fact that this was an NFT collection, and then it has its own little spot in Austin, right? Like in this kind of historic area of Austin, and then how immersive and kind of fun that experience was.
I don't know how much money they spent setting up the whole section of, I don't know if it's like a warehouse or something that they've customized to create this big event space. I think that's something that maybe we kind of craved for in last 2-3 years. Some bigger experience, not just the booth that you can visit at the conference room. And it was really immersive. We played some of the gacha game, and I still have I guess it's a little hard to show, the badge from the event.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really exciting, right? It kind of brought example experience that can be created. What does it mean to combine music and art and technology in this physical space, as opposed to here's a tech product and it can do this, which is great. But in the Doodle, where we saw a lot of family members, a lot of friends hanging out, they're even eating the food that they made, the whole thing using the 5 senses that we have, right? It felt like, oh yeah, this is our new normal life that maybe we strive to be, as opposed to here's like an individual piece of technology where maybe we don't see how that can apply to our life. Okay, this is cool, but I don't know, I might never see in my life. Whereas the event space is like, oh wow, that's like a fun event that I'm looking forward to attend. Inside the mall, there's the play area, right, for children that's not just filled with a bunch of the balls or jumping in an area, but it's also like immersive, interactive experience. So I was pretty impressed by their presentation.
Agree. Yeah, I thought that was cool. As somebody that has purchased NFTs and sold NFTs and like follows collections and kind of trying to learn and also be an investor in some of that, I think this was the first time where I felt FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. I felt FOMO physically. There's been a lot of collections with NFTs where I'm like, that's gonna be a big deal, and then I miss the minting, or like I choose not to invest, and then it like blows up and I'm like, oh man, right? That's how it always works out. But this is one where we got there and you could tell who the NFT holders were because they actually had this really unique lanyard and they had this little doodle pass, and they could go walk up to little interactive experiences and unlock special things, which I thought was pretty cool. And I was like, man, I'm not part of that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and they create like a little token to feel like you got at least some piece of it, you know, event, or feel like you're part of it. It's not just like a digital thing where after you leave the event, you kind of forget about it. It's with you.
A leave behind kind of thing that goes with you. And then if you're an NFT holder, I think one of the first few examples where I got to see where there was actual physical utility. Like, hey, if you're a Doodle NFT owner, come to this event. You'll get the badge. It'll unlock special things. Yeah, you can get like buttons, but you'll also get bigger things. You'll get entered into raffles. You'll get exclusive access to things. And it's an actual event where you can go and do that. I think we're going to see more of that. Probably South by next year or CES or other kind of tech events. We're going to probably see big collections, especially things like Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? Who's introduced the Metaverse environment, physical places and events that are happening. We're going to see like some of these bigger collections start to do more and more of that for events like this. I think we're going to see a lot more of this into the future. And so it's cool to kind of participate in this kind of early stage of what's happening with kind of NFTs and having that digital ownership and how it translates to physical benefits.
Exciting to see that.
Last little thing was just the hand sanitizer experience. Maybe watch that with the audio. I know it was a little shocking for you when you did this and you had explained. We just kind of stumbled on this, right?
Yeah, it's like, what is this?
It was a scary noise. I was like, and you're like, oh, and it kind of spits out the hand sanitizer, right? It also gave you your temperature, didn't it?
Yeah, it was 35.5. That's in South. It's probably a tech gadget placed at the office. You know, as you go in, hey, do you pass based on your temperature? Yes, you pass, and then here you go, the sanitizer, and the experience was a little surprising. I think we've seen other example, if you remember the card that prints out when you clock in.
Why don't you start talking about it and I can get it pulled up here.
The use case is you go to a big corporate company with the office, you check in and they measure your temperature, identify who you are, take a thermal selfie, and then it'll print out the physical plastic card at the end that kind of shows, here's a proof that this is you, and also your temperature measured as of that morning, right? And that can be used, I guess, company events in different places, especially at the event. It'll be probably pretty useful so that I can use it as my official badge to show who I am and also say, hey, I passed my temperature test and I'm good to go.
And that was one, speaking of things that you kind of kept, experiences that you might have kept, I kept mine. I was impressed with how it came out. It's like, there's my photo. It printed within seconds. I see my temperature and you can kind of write on it. And it has their little logo on the back. And this is badge material, which inspired me, right? Because now I'm like, oh, how can I get one of those kind of like as my business card, right? So then I started thinking about like, oh, what if I could have like this experience and you can like scan? And so it kind of prompted that thing. Kind of what happens, I think, at events like South by and CES, where it's like you get inspired by something and kind of run with it. But yeah, they had a really creative use case for get your badge, also check your temperature and make sure that you don't have COVID, you don't have a fever or something like that. And gamifying it slightly, right?
The technology themselves are now something new and crazy, right? Using the sensor for temperature, using iPad screen, take a photo, and then it's just a printer. But the whole thing combined
into a single product, right?
Yeah, single product with a clear use case. That's where we see like, oh, this is clever use of technologies put together. And something that doesn't even cost that much money to like prototype yourself. Like you just need little tablet and camera and sensor, you know, all connected together and write little software to make it happen. So I thought that was kind of cool highlight of going to the conference, where just firsthand experience, it gives you a different impression. If I just look at that product online, I might just think, well, is this really solving the problem or not? Like I get more objectively analytical about it. Going through the process and getting the card makes me feel like I got something that's exciting. So I think that's the interesting different impression or perception that you form of a technology use case. When you're there in person, you might actually find it more exciting and interesting versus if you're just looking at the spec sheet or just the product photo. You might not get the same impression of like, is this an exciting technology use case?
So being there physically does help, which I guess brings me to maybe the last point to talk about here, which is This particular event, South by Southwest, I think this is the second year they've done this, but they actually did have a companion metaverse experience,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
We tried to attend and ran into a lot of hiccups to get to it. That might be something we do in the future. We were hoping to do some interviews there and kind of review, but they leveraged VR chat, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was VR chat. Yep.
So they leveraged VR chat as their kind of metaverse platform. You could watch some live things there, from my understanding. Lots of people were there. They did host some things there. I think the one disadvantage, right, which is being able to physically be there and hold things and see how it actually processes. I got a photo, I got to print it, and I have the badge with me. You know, it's been a whole month and I still carry that with me because I'm like, wow, that was so cool. And I have that logo. It's like pretty easy marketing, right? That it now is sitting at my desk. We probably don't get that type of experience that's kind of one of the negatives of a metaverse companion experience. But the positive being, that's a really unique thing to do for such a massive event like this, where you have hundreds of thousands for an event like this, that they have a metaverse kind of companion experience. So very unique.
It was really kind of interesting that we had more trouble with the metaverse experience, which we ended up not being able to figure out because it did require you join the world and you have to make a friend request.
Yeah.
Once the moderator accepts your friend request, then you're able to join, and it felt like not super coordinated. And I understand that problem because they're not in control of the VR chat system, right? So they cannot provide more user experience focused approach because one, it's not their platform, and two, their platform itself probably has a limitation, or they have not provided a streamlined way to join exclusive events. And I know they don't want to make it open because they want to gate the event, right, to the ticket holders. In comparison, it was much easier to just go to the physical space. Everything is there, right? I can just walk around and experience. There's no setup required in a sense. So it was very interesting that physical events still has a place, just quick way to experience like hundreds of different things we saw at the event, as opposed to in the metaverse, oh, you got to join like 10 different world because everyone is hosting event in different place. All these different way of unlocking how to access those exclusive events. Like you might get tired. One, we still don't have the truly connected multiverse world where you just show up in one way and then experience everything. You still have to set up accounts in every single thing, right?
Avatar accounts. In this case, we wanted to be in VR, so we had to go in the VR experience, download the app. The accessibility of jumping in was still clunky. So there's opportunities to innovate. I think that's kind of one of the takeaways. Great. They adopted a metaverse environment. Second year now, they did that, probably accelerated because of COVID. They wanted to have people to still be able to attend and probably monetize it. Kind of a smart thing to do for an event kind of like this. But lots of opportunities to make that more frictionless for people that are even less technical. We're pretty technical and we jumped in and still had a hard time and never really got to get the thing running. So I would imagine that as that improves, as we start to get more, hey, join in the browser, join in your phone in the browser, or download the app on your phone or your computer. It's like the more entry points you have, and the more you can kind of bring your avatar with you or get that single sign-on experience, you start to get less and less of that friction. Let's hope that some of these bigger players do adopt that. And if they don't, then hopefully we can be kind of the bridge builders to make that kind of thing happen.
I think this event just helped us to realize the friction even more, because usually we just focused on like, oh, let's just try this one thing and we just need to figure out this one thing, how to join. But at an event like this, we have to be able to join many different things in short amount of time where the events are happening. And that's when there's like a pressure, right? Time pressure, be able to interact with different things. And a space like the Doodle did such a good job where we could have spent like 30 minutes to an hour and enjoy the whole experience, because they put everything in together so nicely. Whereas the VR space, it was more, we spent 2 hours trying to set this up and we're still not experiencing anything. A very interesting contrast. And we only felt a lot of friction because we had to figure a lot of things out during the event. It'll be interesting to find out in the future events that we are hoping to attend, and if an audience who is watching this video have some recommendations on some events that we should attend and to cover in the future, I'll be happy to start going out to more of these events and experience these Web3 technologies in person, not just like sitting at my desk trying to experience it virtually.
So overall, I think we'll see in the coming years as we attend, we'll have opportunities given the office location here in Austin, we'll be able to kind of attend future South by events and hopefully see less impact from COVID and see more kind of organizations and hardware, see how that goes. But also we'll probably want to be participants at some level of that spectrum of participation, either as a booth or if not as a booth, having a presence to be able to showcase or host an event or host some kind of a gathering for those that are interested. We're open to ideas, but we'll be kind of brainstorming early as we think about some of that and maybe some of the other events Elisha talked about. Definitely let us know if you know of any.
On the note that we'll be excited to attend more events and maybe even see some of the audience in person if they're also coming to an event, and excited to cover more events in the future. Well, thank you for watching the video.